All right, no, real quick. Let's talk state of junior golf and how you are affecting its future.
Well, junior golf, I think, has really grown in stature and reach the last few years. I think the major obstacle in getting a more diverse group of golfers to the golf course is just creating more access points. And it comes in a variety of fashions. I think the game historically has said no too often. No, in terms of it's very expensive. No, in terms of it's private club and you members only. I mean, there's all of these things that, and there's still a lot of barriers that face kids that don't come from a lot of resources. And, for instance, I was named the captain of the U.S. Junior President's Cup team this coming fall in Charlotte. And thank you. I was very honored. I'm looking forward. I've been working really close with the PJ Tour and the AJG. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. And, one of the first things that I requested was I would like to have one pick. And both the AJGA and the PJ Tour were great. They were supportive of it because I wanted to go out and, maybe find a kid that, hadn't had a chance to play a lot of AJGA events because the way the team was going to be chosen was straight off of the AJGA points list. But like myself, very limited access. Sometimes there's limited access. And again, it becomes a point of opportunity versus, I think, level playing field. And so, there's some hurdles that we have to overcome, and just making the game a little bit more available. And I think if we do that, and I don't really care who wins, whether they're black, white, American, it doesn't matter. But that everybody has the same access to technology, they have the same access to practice facilities and similar access to tournament schedules. Let's see who wants to work the hardest and go out there and get it.
Yeah, no, but I feel like with the star system and the AJGAs, and you have to play this event to play in that event, and if you don't start golf at a decent level by the age you're 12, you're not going to be able to play in the bigger events that you need to play in when you're 18. Like, how do we break this cycle of you have to be good so young to play junior golf at the highest level?
Well, there has to be a more broad-based and accessible method of skill evaluation. Right now, the best thing we have is USGA handicap. And those aren't even all that accurate simply because the indexes don't correlate. You could, I have so many people say, well, I'm a 5 at my course and I just shot 85. I don't understand. And I've been working with a group called the Junior Golf Hub based out of Connecticut for the last 2 years. And, we worked with the teams at University of Texas, at Stanford, and University of New Mexico, and we tested both the men's and women's programs through a system called Player Development Index. And so what we did is it's basically a standardized skills assessment where every single player goes through the exact same testing around short game, ball flight control, and putting, and it produces an overall score. Now, the best score that we saw from all of the players that we tested was around an 81. And so what that backtracks us to is that if a kid from, say, Southern California, New Mexico, Washington, D.C., doesn't have the resource to go out and travel and play tournament golf, but they can go get a player development index test. And they're like, you know what? I'm 12 years old and I just scored a 45. Well, the average score at University of Texas and Stanford men's programs was in the 70s. It was in the high 60s at University of New Mexico. So it now gives them a target saying, if I want to play golf at an elite level Division I program, I have to be able to score a 70 plus on my player development index. And this test is going to be available across the country over the next couple of years. We've got about 5,000 to 10,000 kids that are already in the system, but It's just an effort to make it a little bit more accessible. And so that when we compare a kid from Florida to a kid from Idaho, we're comparing them through the same system. We're not comparing a kid that plays a wide open course that, where 67's a bad score to a kid that, is playing TPC Sawgrass and, where 75's a good score. And I think that's kind of where it needs to go in order for there to be a little bit more equality with regard to, who is actually good at the game.
But you know what, Noda, there's something I want to kind of dive a little deeper into when it comes to junior golf space, is that I'm starting to notice, when it comes to parents and kids, they're really specific on, I guess, strength of field versus going out shooting a number. I heard a lot of kids. I started working with Steph in the underrated golf tour that he just recently announced a couple weeks ago, and I'm starting to notice when I talk to parents, a lot of parents saying, "Hey, who's all over there? I want to make sure the strength of field is high enough before we can commit." Right. And Doug and I, shoot, you as well. We're from the old school. We're like, go shoot a number. If you shoot a number, coaches will come. Coaches will follow. You shoot a number on this particular course. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's ruining junior golf, to be perfectly fair.
See, that's what
I think that kids should show up to win and to beat whoever's put in front of you. So that's how I was raised. That's how Tiger was raised. That's how a lot of their – but, you can't blame them. They're only reacting to how the system is structured. The system is structured in such a way that, for instance, we have a set of regional qualifiers for my national championship. We have 25 of them across the country. It's tough for me to attract the top players, let's just say, in the state of Georgia, because they know, because we don't turn anybody down. So if a kid signs up for our local qualifier and they play the round of their life and they're unranked, no turn, but they just go out there and they, maybe it's on their home course and they just career round it and they get to a regional, they're not bringing any points with them. They're not bringing any rankings. So they actually pull the field down in terms of how the strength of field, quote unquote, is evaluated. And so then, mom and dad or whoever, are sitting with the calculator are like, well, son, we'd love for you to play in the NBC championship, but you can't go to the regional because even if you win, your ranking's going to fall.
Right.
And that in and of itself in cherry picking events isn't necessarily, I think, the fault of the parents or the kids, but the way the system is structured.
It's the industry's fault. It's the industry's fault.